Have you ever sat in a lecture and started to just drift off and wondering why? Maybe it was because your lecture was just plain boring. Where was it your professor? Why don't you browse through all of the years you spent through elementary school and high school? And think about it. Was there any teachers that you thought were amazing? Were there any teachers you thought were terrible at teaching? Did you notice any similarities? What is education? What is learning? What is teaching about? Are there better ways to teach? Are there better ways to learn? Okay, so that was a lot of questions. Why don't we break this down now? Since traditional times, there have been many models and theories developed on what our education system should be like. For example, one such model was the banking education model. This term was first introduced by Paulo Freire. He described this as where students were mere containers for which educators were just depositing knowledge into them. Freire critiqued this model as one that reinforces a lack of critical thinking. And we all know that the development of critical thinking skills is truly vital to allow students to retain their knowledge. Personally, I think this model is outdated, and as critiqued by Freire, this doesn't help develop important skills such as critical thinking. This just becomes a cycle of rinse and repeat of memorizing, then regurgitating on a test, then forgetting it all over again. It just becomes rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. So, what do you guys think?
Can you tell me, do you agree or disagree with the banking system?
Yeah, I think I agree about it.
Can you give me some reason why you agree about it?
Because the teacher deposits knowledge into our mind when we are children, and it can help us to learn things in our future. And I think the life is a process of study. So I think with this knowledge, we can have more critical thinking.
Banking education, I think it's limiting in some sense. It's limited. It's limiting students' creativity and critical thinking. It's limiting their own thoughts and their own experiments. I don't like it very much, but in a sense, I think it's probably necessary for beginners. Because if they don't know anything, they don't have any information in their head, how do you expect them to explore on themselves?
So I disagree with the concept of banking education for the simple reason it focuses on students memorizing the material and not being able to understand what it means. Primarily, I would cite medical students in med school because they just memorize all the material and don't know how to use it, how to apply that to real life. So it should be between an interaction with the student and the teacher to actually get true knowledge.
Yeah, so if the teacher teaches you how to attack specific problems that you might find, then once you have that kind of toolbox of how to attack problems and how to think critically about things, then you don't need to be told all of this knowledge, you just need to apply these tools that you've learned.
Okay.
So instead of teaching them knowledge, teach them tools and how to gain the knowledge.
Okay, good. Thank you.
As you can see, many of us agree that the banking model of education limits us in many ways, such as the development of critical thinking, individual thought, and creativity. Yet, many of us agree that there is some merit to the banking model of education. Without a proper foundation of knowledge, it is useless to develop critical thinking skills.
Okay, so the teaching approach I prefer the most is when teachers give examples, like real-life examples, and drawing diagrams, drawing flowcharts, and because I'm a visual learner and I feel that most students are visual learners, so they need to see pictures, diagrams, charts, flowcharts, anything visual of that sort, and as well as doing drama skits. So if they have an idea, to portray a problem, asking students to volunteer to participate in some skits. I think that is the most relatable one.
I like teachers that give examples and relate their topic to everyday life. I like them to visualize things for me. If you give me a concept and I cannot visualize that, it's kind of hard for me to remember it. So if you explain everything, if the teacher gives a lot of information in different ways, and I can relate it to my life or relate it to approachable things, then it's much easier.
The teaching approach that I would like would be a teacher that lets students have critical thinking, but at the same time actually teaches them a lot of the concepts. So maybe from the beginning they start teaching, and then near the end of a unit they would let us do the critical thinking and like help us through that process.
A good teaching approach is finding a way for students to interact, such as giving examples or getting them involved.
Hi, I'm Mr. Torres, and I've been teaching for 22 years now, mostly in Scarborough, and now at Asian Park Collegiate.
So I'd like to ask the first question. What do you think a teacher's main goal should be?
Main goal, I think, is to teach students to become critical thinkers. Okay? But that involves both giving them basic knowledge as well as analytical skills, because one without the other is meaningless. You cannot analyze if you don't know anything, and if you know things but you can't analyze, then it's pretty useless.
What qualities do you think a good teacher should have?
I think a good teacher should be fun and smart.
Understanding. Responsible and approachable. Enthusiastic.
Lenient.
Patient and professional.
Caring.
Creative.
Confidence.
Motivated.
Compassionate.
But most importantly, a teacher should believe in their student. Educational systems have progressed a long way since the banking model. Some say that the banking model still exists in some classrooms today, but that we have improved much upon it. Now education systems have improved, but we are far from perfect. But we are getting there. Developed was I was on the road, man. It's gonna be all bloopers of me. This model is just and as critiqued by Ferret, it doesn't help students develop.
Main goal, survive till June.